For us, climate change presents us with a broad range of challenges and worries, involve solutions on a macro and micro level, and it will require individuals, countries and a connected world to adapt to these problems. As such, I've chosen my title for tonight as Energy Security, Risk Assessment and the Future of Climate Change, as it also allows us to take an overview of the situation and also to look at the parts of the way that climate change is directing our policy and altering our lives. Moreover, in our lives we find that things are often becoming dictated to by risk assessments. To an extent they seem imposing and sometimes bizarre, like reports in the Daily Mail where we're told how to boil a kettle in an office, for example. But there are areas in which risk assessments is a perfectly natural thing to do. In most cases, on a micro level, we make them as individuals without even thinking about it. They're either instinctive or learnt at an early age, but the fact of the matter is that humans use risk assessment every day, from making a cup of tea to walking across a busy road or docking a spaceship. The level of risk often demands its own level of assessment. In most cases, risk assessment is based on accumulated knowledge from parents, peers and history, and so on. But in some cases, as is often the case with climate change, we face new risks that we don't have a precedent for. This is where scientists try to use the precautionary principle to tackle this unknown quantity. However, this principle only deals with one side of the coin, and that is the actual event of the risk itself, as highlighted by the phrase, better safe than sorry. This makes risk assessment hard, as we may need to predict future events based on modelled trends. Indeed, this is what the IPCC has given us, and based on those models, we can see the world is at risk of suffering from global warming. Although some people do not believe this, the case to support global warming is almost 100% proven. It is just a contentious issue as to how much man is involved in this. So what can we expect for the future? Well, most climate change models predict that if the Earth warms by another 2 degrees, there could be serious repercussions that would start a chain of events that would send global warming out of control. Again, there are some contentions concerning these models, but most scientists believe these predictions to be correct. Even though some people will still disagree with man's involvement in global warming, the atmospheric CO2 concentration seems to strongly suggest that in the years since the Industrial Revolution, man has been responsible for more than 75% of the increase in CO2. Already, many parts of the world are suffering extreme weather conditions. We see the polar ice caps melting, droughts, floods, and already sea levels are rising. So what can we do about this? Here in the UK, our future energy security policy is intrinsically tied with our need to reduce carbon emissions to prevent or slow down further warming. We can expect to lose 1/3 of our energy production by 2020, as most of Britain's nuclear and some of its coal-fired power stations will reach the end of their lives by this point. This presents an opportunity, but also a massive challenge, as Britain needs to replace these sources of power in a short timescale and has the possibility of creating greener, renewable energy solutions as a way of doing this. Indeed, this is one of our key objectives in order to meet our Kyoto Agreement pledge of 15% renewable energy sources by 2020. We cannot rely on fossil fuels as we have been doing in the past, and even if the risk assessments around global warming are wrong, although unlikely, fossil fuels still contribute to massive pollution, which already has harmful effects on people in the forms of increased asthma, breathing problems, and soil pollution, etc. So even though people may not agree with global warming, we can agree that reducing these fuel pollutions is a good idea. We also need to be aware that these resources are becoming more and more scarce, as one of my colleagues has already said, with some predictions that we may reach peak oil by around 2050. So looking to the future, the UK has a wealth of wind and wave resources. The Liberal Democrats within the current coalition government are keen to promote wind turbines, which is good news for us all. And working with British energy company SSE and Denmark's Dong Energy, the new Energy Secretary, Ed Davey, has recently installed a massive wind turbine farm for 1.2 billion, known as the Walney Scheme, just off the coast of Cumbria. This project boasts more than 100 turbines, generating enough power for 320,000 homes. These turbines, the companies say, were installed and cabled within 6 months, which is an impressive turnaround. There are also several projects in line to harness the power of wave and tidal resources, and the more optimistic observers in renewable energy believe we can smash our objectives if we follow this route. However, there are just as many people who believe that we can only achieve carbon-free energy if we embrace nuclear power. Nuclear is a contentious issue. There are obvious safety concerns, especially after Fukushima in 2011, with countries like Germany refusing to build more plants and trying to shut down their existing ones. In most cases, nuclear is also vastly expensive and requires state subsidy. As some commentators have said, nuclear power is one of those few industries that allows a fantastic way to privatise profits and socialise losses. We also saw this in the banking industry, where profits were allowed to soar during the good times, but the government, hence us, were expected to bail them out when times went bad. And they are still continuing with the same practices of paying enormous bonuses and favouring profits rather than paying back the government and the people they owe. Another concern is even that modern nuclear power plants often go over budget in construction and take an average of 15 years to build, meaning any new builds, even started this year, would fall a possible 7 years behind any 2020 deadlines for reductions and the necessity for new power sources. Based on these timelines, likely costs and possible damage to the environment and harm to people, there should be scepticism about nuclear's claims to provide us with that carbon-free future. The DRP acknowledges to an extent that some of our carbon-free energy may need to come from nuclear power, whether that be through existing plants or new ones. However, we would be keen to support and subsidise other forms of renewable energy wherever possible. We believe that in the last 60 years, renewable energy has been overlooked for nuclear power in too many instances, and we want to redress that balance wherever it is sensible to do so. In line with our value of decentralising governance, rather than prescribing to regions which renewable they must take up, we would work closely with them, the science community and the relevant companies to ensure that each region had the best renewable source for them. i.e. a tidal wave generator would be no use in the Midlands, but they may benefit from nuclear. The Scottish Highlands may benefit more from wind turbines than solar panels, and the opposite could be said for the other end of the country. We would also hope to be able to phase out all nuclear by 2030, in line with plans by groups such as Zero Carbon Britain. And so far, I've only been discussing the energy options for electricity. I haven't even been able to touch on renewable gas resources such as methane harvesting, which is being successfully produced in Holland by Ecotricity and piped into the UK to supply green gas to 14,390 homes. And they currently expect that they could produce enough energy for 700,000 within a year if proper investment was given. The UK used to have complete energy independence, and if we are smart and utilise our scientists, resources and unique positioning, we in the DLP truly believe that we can have it again. Just imagine 100% renewable green energy, no more oil spills on the coast from tankers, no more hikes in gas or energy prices because of destabilisation or war in the Middle East, jobs, trades, industries in the Midlands, the north of England and Wales, for communities that have felt abandoned since the collieries and steelworkers were shut down in the 70s and 80s. A vision of a strong, vibrant community, proud to say we are British, proud to say we are green, and proud to say that we are doing our bit to save the planet. Thank you.